At first glance, you could assume this week was all about scaling things down, but as soon as you get behind the wheel, well, it's an upsized approach when it comes to power. Hey, welcome to this edition of Road Warrior. I'm your host, Grant Roberson. Now behind me is the 2023 Hyundai Kona N. With that comes some boot scootin' boogie, a scaled down approach, and just, well, pure T fun. Now, by the numbers, there's incremental differences between each model level. I'll let you get into the weeds and do the minute detail, but overall, this vehicle measures in just shy of 166 inches as you see it. Wheelbase, not too bad at 102.4 inches. As for width, around about 71 inches wide and 61.5 inches tall. Lastly is ground clearance, not too bad, a little bit of an increase again here on the N Edition, this one being around about 6.8 inches. That giving a little bit extra commanding view, but nowhere near an SUV, and well, not as low as a sedan. Even with a somewhat modest overall roofline, you could say this vehicle is stacked when it comes to design, most notably with the front and rear designs when it comes to the headlight and taillight assemblies, but you can see it also through the midline was kind of a high-waisted design when it comes to this lower element here. Now this vehicle takes it to the next level, not just here, but also the exterior pizzazz. I love the fact that it doesn't look, well, economical, quirky. It just has a chiseled to perfection look, but not overdone. Now, first off, what you'll notice is body color all the way around, and this is kind of has that contrast I mentioned in previous shows. When you have a darker body color with darker accents, it gives you more of a monochromatic look. This one's standing out a lot more, specifically with the darkened accents, the mirrors, the trim, the roof rails, and all the way down to the bottom with a hint of the black trim and the sporty red, which of course matches up with the red brake calipers. As you sweep down the body though, you're going to see really tight lines. A flare of haunches there at the back, really sawed off here at the front end. Also, as you sweep around, just a little bit of ripple effect to give you some sporty atmosphere. Now, what you're going to like on the inside is what you're seeing here. Really a cathedral-like feel, typical compact kind of look, but we didn't go too squished down, which could give a little bit more head impact issue. Now swinging around to look at the wow factor as everyone sees you pass by. For any vehicle, you could say it's all about first impressions, but with that need for speed there under the hood, it could be more about last impressions here on the Kona, and thankfully Hyundai stepped up when it comes to the rear warfare. Where it begins is in this upper portion, the elongation of the roof line with this kind of extended rear spoiler, not angled up, but more angled down. It is dynamic in the sense that air can flow under, over, and through the middle. You have kind of a matching accent down here at the bottom, about the only heavy rubber cladding you'll see on this vehicle, because otherwise it's body color all the way around. Now, when I alluded to kind of a vertical stack when it comes to design, we can see it both in the headlight assembly and the rear taillight assembly as well. What you're going to see up here is the braking, as well as here in the middle, down below, turn signal operation and reverse lights. As you sweep down, lots of angular approach, and that red accent we see on the side naturally encompassed here on the back bumper. Now, one big problem with compact vehicles could be, well, the little options it has on the inside, but surprisingly, this vehicle really measures up when it comes to delivering people, cargo, or everything in between. Now, before we get in there, one thing you may be hearing, the little putter, the little hum from down below, and that's represented in the dual exhaust, something you can't overlook. Now, when it comes to safety back here, this vehicle really doesn't need surround view or backup sensors, but it does have backup cameras. Pretty much a standard option across the board, so if your compact vehicle doesn't come with it, well, move on to the next. Now, when it comes to operation, you do have naturally the good old key fob. This is a smart key system, and it has basic operation, but to get inside, it's as simple as hitting the electronic release. Now, once it rises and gets up out of the way, for my 6'2" frame, you'll find that it, well, pretty much minimizes my head banging affair getting just up out of the way. Nice cathedral approach, typical for any rear hatch like this. Does have a nice solid rear built-in tonneau cover that will easily hide everything inside. Now, what you're going to see as it sits is around about 19 cubic feet. Now, if you're not familiar with that compared to other sedans, this is easily a lot more. Most sedans are around 12, 13, 14 cubic feet on average. This being compact, easily exceeds that. Now, once you fold all this second row down, that's going to go to around about 45 cubic feet. And what that means is, well, this is pretty much a delivering machine, can handle any modest size cargo with ease. As for kind of those extracurricular activities like bikes and what have you, well, that's going to be better suited either mounted on top or strapped here to the back end. Now, certainly the rear warfare is going to leave that lasting impression, but what most people are going to see for just a millisecond in their rear view is going to be the good old first impression, the grille warfare. And where it all begins is, of course, dead front and center. The only other darken accents on this vehicle where there's not body color. Huge amount of airflow through the middle, implied here on the outer side, but again, gobbling up down here. This is also implying airflow, giving you a menacing front end. Now, we talked about that vertical stack when it comes to the outer tail lights. Going to see it here as the headlights as well. Daytime running lights up here at the top, just kind of a nice rope lighting that runs at all times. Down here below, 3 separate bulbs for the headlight assembly, 2 when it's regular power, and a 3rd when you engage the brights. As for the rest of airflow, as you sweep around, this is going to be an implied facade on this side, but actually operational airflow here in the corners sweeping down the vehicle. Lastly is at the bottom in this nice red adornment that we've seen around this vehicle. The Kona comes in 3 different models, the base, the middle, or the top shelf, and likewise there are 3 equally equipped engines under the hood. A 2.0 liter base model, the 1.6 liter turbocharged in the middle, or the as equipped 2.0 liter inline 4-cylinder turbocharged edition. What that means is, well, climbing that ladder of power at the base level, around about 147 horses, 132 foot-pounds of torque. In the middle spectrum, 195 horses and equally 195 foot-pounds of torque. But lastly is what we have here, and well, the boot scooting boogie effect. And what that means is 276 horses and 289 foot-pounds of torque. When it comes to grip at the 4 corners, all-wheel drive, well, that is an option, but for the other models, strictly here for the N, front-wheel drive only. As for the transmission, the base model is going to be an intelligent variable transmission. For the middle of the road, that's going to be a 7-speed EcoShift dual clutch dry transmission, but for the as tested model, that's going to be an 8-speed dual clutch transmission, wet friction. As for the manual-like feel, well, that comes on all models, but only the N has the paddle shifters. When it comes to legroom numbers, you're going to find ample legroom and overall sport in the front. First, starting with the sport seats, to be expected. Extra bolstering here on the side and great overall comfort with the dual suede look and leather that you see. As for legroom numbers, you're going to find around about 41 inches overall space in the front and kind of a nice uplifting overall viewpoint, again with great ground clearance and overall seating position. As you swing to the back, you're going to find decent legroom as well, especially for a compact vehicle like this, around about 35 inches of legroom. As for seating, pretty much a standard bench styling, fits 2 with ease, but 3 can find home and a resting spot when needed. Setting comfort in this particular model is going to be easy with the power controls for the driver. On the passenger side, it's going to be the manual bar up front and the handle right here to do the seat back. One area I like to protect, you could say, is my gas sets, basically having a locked door like we have here. To release it, just simply come up by the driver's seat, pull the corresponding handle here on the floor, and that's going to unlock the hatch with ease. Now, once it's open, you're going to find a traditional knob, twist off, and fill it up. One unexpected feature was the digital gauge cluster and the massive infotainment screen, even though I have seen this across the board on my latest test drives. Now, this is always going to have kind of this soothing default screen, helps kind of keep your eyes on the road versus looking at your entertainment. But if you do need to get there, you do have shortcuts corresponding that give you the nice heads-up display. Now, this is a split screen, really makes for great navigation when you need it, as well as giving you all the various information here on the left side. Over on the gauge cluster, nice digital readout when it comes to the digital look of the speedometer over on the left, and the analog implied digital readout for the tach there on the right. When it comes to climate controls, no dual zones to be expected on a vehicle this small, but nice simplicity when it comes to interaction. First, with symmetric knobs, temperature select over here with the digital readout, as well as fan speed on the right, all your other various mode selects down below. As for charging things up, you can find it in the traditional USB as well as traditional power controls, or not so traditional, the wireless charging base. Simply set your phone or so equipped device here, and the little indicator will let you know you're charging away. Down below, you do have the traditional transmission shifter here. You can pop it over into sport mode and use the corresponding paddle shifters I mentioned earlier. What I also like is the various driving modes. Just simply toggle through, and it makes for a dramatic gauge cluster. Just simply go right between them, and you can tell exactly what you're in. Sport, snow, obviously going to that white bluish look, but getting back to sport, that's probably the most wow factor. And if you can sense it, the engine lets you know it's ready. Now, if you're a true Need for Speed enthusiast, you don't have time to reach down here and do this little knob. Instead, you want quick access, and that's found in the form of these two buttons, but they're not created equal. First, this is going to be the old switcheroos of the standard various modes. This one is going to be the extra bang for your buck. Once you press that, that's going to give you more of a custom look. Digital readout there for the speed and tachometer, as well as other engine temperature settings and such. Over here on the right is your various performance indicators, and lastly, your settings down there at the bottom with engine, steering, and suspension. You could say this vehicle has the Thomas the Tank Engine kind of mentality. This little engine could, and you're going to see that in the overall performance indicators there on the right side as you scroll through. First one being your turbo numbers and your torque, as well as your G-forces as you make this vehicle do the various turns. Now, certainly this is better done on a closed track versus your neighborhood streets. Now, not to overcomplicate this, but these two buttons can be customized. The way I have it set now is when I press it, it relates to that knob down there, but I could make it custom 1 and custom 2. Where that translates to is obviously a lot of the performance. What you're seeing here is 3 different levels: the engine, the steering, and you can tell that the suspension is lower. To get to that screen, you're going to go over to your main infotainment screen, and you'll see over here on the left side the N mode. Once you press that, you're going to get a very engaging cluster, not where you expect it, but here in the middle. Now, if you notice, there are 2 screens indicated by that white and that grayed out box. Once you swipe over, that's going to give you tons of areas that you can, well, enhance. As you can tell, my suspension is at normal, my steering is at Sport Plus, the engine is at Sport Plus as well, and so on. But if I want to select that, I can make the suspension go up to Sport or Sport Plus, and again, that can be customized down to the specific button there on the steering wheel. But everything you need right here. Now, if you swipe back over, this is again going to be right there front and center where you need it, and you can simply dial in a little bit closer and get tons of extra information. What's even better is when you get over here and click on the circuit. That'll help you navigate to where you're supposed to let this vehicle have Need for Speed, and that's called a motorsports park. As you can tell, various functions, various places to go, find that, and well, you can see what the racetrack is going to look like. Another button you can press is the NGS button, kind of a nitros if you say. Press and hold it, and that's going to give you a countdown there on the right of how much more time you have to utilize that, and you'll hear the engine respond with some higher RPMs and definitely a lot more pep in the step. Well, that does it for this Need for Speed edition of Road Warrior, and a test drive behind the wheel of the 2023 Hyundai Kona N edition, taking power to the next level in a compact offering that lets us pretty much go anywhere we want and have some fun while we're doing it. But it still delivers great inside comfort, a cathedral-like feel, and worst case scenario, if you really need to carry some things, you can throw it right there in the back or strap it on top of those roof rails. As always, I'd like to thank you for watching this edition of Road Warrior. Keep both hands on the wheel and eyes straight ahead.